Happy New Year, everyone. What a great way to start the new year uh, by doing something creative. And I'm so excited to be back to LCPL teaching again in this new year as well. Um, I thought, why not do something colorful in January because I knew somewhere it's going to snow. It's all white everywhere. So why not do something colorful? I hope the kids are enjoying the snow outside. Once again, no school, but that's okay. We'll still make the best of the day. And today we're going to paint this beautiful, colorful turtle. And as you can see, so many beautiful colors here, all blending into each other. And I'll explain how we're going to go ahead and paint this, the colors that we're going to use, how we're going to start, and everything. But for now, we'll just focus on the drawing. The drawing, we're going to keep it very simple. I'm not going to get into very detail of these little scales that we see here. Just a few, but just mostly get the shape here. You can see it's almost like oval here and against a small oval. So just try to get very simple shapes. I just did a few here just to get an idea, but don't get into detail. And I'll give you about 7, 8 minutes to get the drawing done. And then we'll get started with the painting and the colors to choose. So if you've already drawn, no worries. Just keep your palette ready with whatever colors you see in the picture. And the link to the reference photos is already on the LCPL website where the calendar is. So go ahead and take a look at those pictures and get your drawing started. Any questions, let me know, let Lauren know, and I'll be happy to answer.
I'm going to grab that link from the calendar and put it in the
Yeah.
chat box for everybody.
Yeah. And don't worry if your drawing is not perfect. It's totally okay. The turtle is not going to get mad at you. It's totally fine. Just think new year, new aspirations, new resolutions. I don't know what everyone's resolutions are. I hope art is one of them in some form, any creative thing. And if you want to share any new resolutions, please feel free on the chat. It'd be fun to see what everybody's thinking. One of my new resolutions is to definitely try different subjects. Um, I do love portraits. I love still life. Not much into flowers, but maybe I'll try something. I also want to do a little bit more on the background this year, how to make very creative backgrounds. And yeah, those are things I want to work. Definitely, portraits will be on the top as always. Hopefully, find some interesting subjects.
Asking if they can use the watercolor from the tube.
Yes, you can use the watercolor from the tube. I'll show you how you can use it. If, like, this is my palette, you can take the tube, squeeze it a little bit, and then maybe spray a little bit of water or a few drops of water so that you can get it started. So all these colors are from tubes. Okay. Tubes are really great because they stay fresh inside the tube until you squeeze it out to use. So fresh paint always gives you that sparkle, that glow on your paintings, rather than paints that are sitting in the palette for a very long time. If you are taking care of them to cover them, it's fine. But if you're leaving it open with dust and everything, uh, they'll start to lose their shine and get all muddy and everything. Definitely cover them with any lead, any plastic wrap, cling wrap. But yes, I love tubes. I really love tubes. Okay, so we'll start in about 4 minutes or 3 minutes. Even if you cannot draw these small details, it's okay. We can directly even draw it later, the paintbrush, or just add in the details later. Just get the skeleton of the um, subject here. Okay, we'll start in another minute. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so here is a subject, and you can see the photograph, the reference photos here. And let me just try to place it as close as possible. Well, what colors to choose? So many of them. You can definitely choose what you have on your palette. You don't have to do exactly what I say. You don't have to do a blue background. You can do any background. And if I what I see in this picture is I see a lot of yellows here, some reds and some really nice browns like the burnt sienna, some really dark browns like the sepia and the other darker shades of brown. Nice, beautiful turquoise blues and greens. Okay. So if you don't have this on your palette, it's totally fine. Use what you have. Okay. And when we start a subject like this, it can get so complicated. Like, how do I do these little things? Of course, these things take a lot of time. We'll try to cut it short because of the time, but I'll show you how to approach this when we start painting. Now, one important thing to keep in mind is when you start painting this is like how much paint and how much water to use, because I know that's the most difficult part in watercolors. Yes, it is difficult, but it's not impossible to learn. You can check how light or dark something is. Okay, those are called values. If you see here, it's fairly light. So which means you're probably going to use less paint, but more water. That doesn't mean like a puddle of water, just enough to you let your brush flow. When you come here, do you see these very darker areas here, the eyes? Very intense, very dark. And these need to have more paint. Okay, nice saturated paint. And only then the subject would look like real turtle and look very three-dimensional. If you all paint everything as light, this is light, this is light, it will not really stand out. So whenever you are in doubt, try to look at your black and white picture and compare. Hey, if I paint a blue here, how light or dark should I paint? It's fairly light, right? So you don't have to put like a really big chunk of paint on it. Okay. So when I start painting, you'll see, and immediately you won't see the difference because they'll all look the same. When you start adding the darker colors, that's when you'll start seeing your image or your painting pop up. And don't worry if it's not coming the way you have your imagination or anything. It's just a painting. There's nothing to lose. The year is just started. You can always keep painting and get better. Okay, so we'll get started. I'll get these colors on my palette and I'll show you. This is my palette, and I have the turquoise, greens, red, brown, sepia, more blues, some yellows. Okay, and we'll get started with that. I'm just going to keep it in front of me as reference. Okay, and get started with very clean brush. Keep a towel next to you to always dab it and remove all that excess water. I'm going to start with a little bit of yellow. Okay, very light, lot of water and less paint. And I'm just going to add a few areas here with some yellow. Don't worry, I'll give everyone time to catch up. And wherever I see yellow, I'll probably go ahead and add some of it. Okay, some places here. Okay, Okay. All right. So I think I'm done with this part, a bit of the yellow here. And then we'll go ahead with the another color. Give you guys a minute to catch up. Next, I'm going to go with a bit of a turquoise blue. And going to do these areas. Again, keeping it pretty light. See, if it's light and later you feel you need color, you can always go ahead and pick some paint and add. But if it's already so dark, it's really hard to remove the color. It gets messy and then you don't like it. So always nice to add more paint than to remove it. Okay. And I'm going to continue. And every time I paint, I look at the shapes. We need to learn or train our eyes how to break up these big things into small chunks. Okay. So I'm just doing the same. I'm just trying to break things into small, small chunks. I'll take some nice dark green. Okay. Some of us won't see the colors that I see. It's just how differently we perceive things. It won't be the exact color. Okay, that's okay. But just try to see what your eyes tell you and paint that. Painting is about what you see, other than, the abstract style of painting where you can have your imagination. But in realistic painting, it's all about what you see. If I don't see the eyes, I don't see the eyes. I'm not going to try and add something unless absolutely necessary. But otherwise, you just paint what you see. Okay, so next, I'm going to wait for a while and let you guys catch up. Next, we'll tackle this area again. You can see it has the same greens and everything. So it'll just be easier. So I mixed a lot of color together. And once again, I look at my black and white picture and pick paint as required. I think picking the wrong paint. All right. This didn't turn out to be green. It's okay. It's a bit blue, which is fine. I think I squeezed in the wrong paint here. It's fine. See a bit of yellow, so I'll go ahead and add some. Okay. Now, while this is already wet, I'm going to take some green, mix it with a bit of dark blue. Okay. I just want like a nice dark green, I can say. And I'm going to just add these dark areas. Now, why did I do this right now? The reason being it's wet, and I'm doing a technique called wet on wet. Okay. So what happens is the paints just merge with each other, and it looks very soft. It looks like, very very natural. So that's why I just went and ahead and added paint right away. Okay. I'll give you guys some time to catch up. Go ahead. Any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer.
Megha, can you add water to a part to make it lighter in color?
Okay. You want to see how it looks? Okay. Um, let me show you one example. If I pick this paint, this has a lot of water, and you can see it's really light. Now let me go ahead and add a lot of paint and less water. Do you see this? So this is a difference in values. This is darker value, this is lighter value. Okay. Now if I want to continue with more water here, I can keep adding water, keep going, keep going, keep going, and see how light it becomes. Right? So this is how you can manage your paint consistencies. Water, more paint. Okay. I wish I
I'm
could.
done.
Hi, Julie, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Um. Uh. So when we're mixing the yellow and the green, is it supposed to like blend together and kind of take over the yellow?
Yeah, if it mixes a little bit, it's okay. Remember, if you see the photograph, everything's slightly blending with each other, and that's okay. If
Okay.
I see it's blending, it's a little bit part of it. They're not two separate elements, so it's okay if it's blending a little bit. It's just
Okay.
going to give
Thank
a
you.
very softer feel. Yeah, thanks, Julie.
Mhm.
Okay, now let's go to the other parts. We can, this is dry, yeah. So we can handle this area and see the colors that you see here, almost like very burnt orange kind of thing. You know, you can use some burnt sienna, bit of red as well, orangish tones. So whatever you have, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to handle this one small area at a time, because you see there are some empty thin lines here or shapes that don't need any paint, that are white. In watercolors, we try to not to use white paint. We leave the white areas treating as white paint. Okay, once again, look at a black and white and see how much paint you need. I'll start with a bit of really red, very light red. Okay, and oh, that's too light. Okay, and I'm going to just look at some shapes here. Doesn't have to be perfect, but try to give a bit of a structure here. And I can switch to a bit of, I have some burnt sienna, and you can see maybe it's too brown. I can add some red. And continue to paint like that. I'll take the same colors here, bit of red mixed with some brown, burnt sienna. You can add some little darker tones here. See this? Well, it is already wet, but if you're adding some extra paint on it, make sure it's thicker. It cannot have a lot of water on it. The next one is a little more darker, so I don't need too much water here. Just make sure that each shape here that you're painting is different. They cannot have the same values. They cannot have the same color. It's just going to look very unnatural. It's just like how your hair cannot look the same, right? I'll continue to use the same burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is almost like a brown, by the way. I know colors can be very misleading. It's just like kind of a brown, and every manufacturer has a different kind of brown. That's okay. And that's why sometimes I have to mix some red because they don't look like brown that much. And slowly I'm trying to get some shape here. Feel free to add some yellows as well. The whole painting has some yellow. So it looks very cohesive, sorry. Okay. And we just follow the same pattern here. I go back again and again with my black and white picture to see how light, how much dark. Okay. You're training your eyes, you're training your observation skills. And that's all there is to, honestly, to realistic painting. You train your eyes again and again to see what you see and then paint. I'm keeping it light. These areas are light. I can always add more paint if I want some. But for now, it's okay. Sometimes paints dry light. That's how watercolors are. They dry light about 10%. And that's why you feel like, oh, when I painted this, it was so dark, but now it feels so light. Yes, you'll probably have to go back and add some paint, and it's okay. Um, Better than removing paint. And whenever you want to add more paint to a section, let it completely dry and then add. Unless you are trying to achieve something wet on wet. See, I didn't change any colors. I'm just using the same paints that I have, reds and browns, but in different intensities slightly. And I apologize if I'm going a little faster. Sometimes I tend to, because once the paint is on my brush, I keep going, but I'll wait. Okay, let's go to the other sections. We don't have that many sections left. I can go with the same lighter area here. Maybe go take some more darker paint, add some dark areas. See if you see how they merge with each other. It's so beautiful. It's just like very subtle transitions, right? And that comes with values. You cannot just go ahead and paint in one stretch. It takes time. And that's the beauty of watercolors. You can paint in layers, thin layers, and achieve that realism. It's so transparent and so beautiful. It is a bit of work, I must say, but it's worth it. And it needs patience. Watercolors needs patience more than anything. But because of its such dynamic nature, it makes it so exclusive that new patterns arrive and you just go with the flow. For me, it's almost like I'm at the beach playing with water and paint. A lot of people who paint in acrylics and oils love the control. And I agree, I haven't painted much in those mediums, but I know you can control them so well. And watercolors can feel a little out of control sometimes, but like I said, that's something that actually attracts me. Okay, so I'll take a break, give you guys some time to catch up, like 2-minute break, and then we'll go ahead and paint the rest. We aren't left with that much, guys. Okay, let's get started with this area, and then again you can see what the colors you see. It's mostly again very browns and reds mixed, and some green is coming towards here. Um, and again, we can do this a bit of wet on wet, get it all blended and soft. So we'll try this here. Okay, then we'll go here, and the end I'll paint this. The reason being, it is so dark. I don't want to use all your darks in the beginning, and then this is not dark. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to take some deep scarlet. It's like pinkish, reddish, I don't know, maroon, I would say. I don't have that color. I'm trying to mix. I'm just going to, yeah, very lightly in some places. And then I'm going to take the same reds, the reddish brown I have, and paint some areas. Remember, each of these small shapes, I would call them shapes, okay? It's easier to understand. They need to be different. Different in shape and different in values. Cannot have them same. They will not look nice. They will look very flat and boring. So take your time trying to get some interesting shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's the part, right? We're not trying to copy the whole thing, even though we're painting realistically. It's just enough to get some shape. And as you can see, as we come outside, they get darker and darker. As we're inside, going inside, they get a bit lighter. Not really worried how exactly each shape looks. Go ahead and add some extra paint, some brown, red mixed. Just trying to make it look different than the one next to it. Here you see there's this big blob here. Nice, rich and dark. Almost giving it like a very nice definition. Can also add some green to that. The reason being they're blending actually. Okay, so this is okay. Now you can see, until you paint about 60-70% of the painting, or maybe 80% of the painting doesn't come together. It all looks very, disconnected and doesn't look real. When you come to that level of 80-85%, things start to connect together and things start to look real because you're adding the darks and everything. So be patient, even if you're not liking what you're doing, but it will come together. I'm going to go in with a bit of really nice dark sepia, almost like very dark brown. But I'll go ahead and paint this part. You can see. And this area you can see, they're just again like very small triangles here, but they have a direction. Okay. You can see as they go down, the direction changes slightly and they become darker. So make sure you observe that. Okay. Slowly they change the color and the direction slightly. This is important so that it looks three-dimensional. And just feel some, it's a bit dull here, so I'm adding some color. Okay, now we can go to this whole head part, the face part and everything. Same, the concept is the same. You pick colors that is almost reddish, brownish, and some areas are darker. The eyes need to be really dark. It's popping out. Almost you can mix like a nice dark blue with some brown. Okay, so maybe I'll try that first. Go with a very, very nice dark, thick, dark paint and make it look dark. I am using some nice dark blue. It's slightly mixed with brown. Okay, so I got my eyes here. And the rest I can manage with a lot of browns that are joining to it. If you like, these shapes are small, go with a smaller brush if you can. It just give you more control. I can manage with this brush, but remember, bigger shapes, big brushes. Smaller shapes, small brushes. That's the idea, but everybody paints differently. Sometimes you can paint with any brush. So totally your preference. That's an artist's preference. You're an artist. So you paint what makes you comfortable. There are no rules for brushes of how you should hold or kind of brushes you should use. You'll definitely have to try a little bit what you like, the flow and everything. But the only suggestion I would give is even if you're a very beginner painter and even if you paint sometimes, invest in a good brush. There's nothing worse than using bad tools and then try to expect a good painting out of it. just spend a little bit more on a good brush. You'll be happy, seriously. I'm using this beautiful brush. It's called Silver Black Velvet. Amazing brush. You'll get it on Amazon as well. If you want to know where I buy my supplies, I'll let you know. Just send me an email. I'll be happy to share. They are cheaper than the store ones, but definitely buy good paint, good brush, good paper. Just three things. You don't need any other gadgets. I'm taking some brown. Try to give a little bit of definition to the eye. Okay. See a bit, some few dots here and there. You can take some nice dark blue and give this dark area, the mouth here, some definition. Okay, it has to be dark. Okay, that looks good. Just remember, practice a lot, paint a lot, and then you'll see your paintings will just come to life. I'll take some dark brown. And just give some definition here as well. Okay. And now maybe I'll wait so that you guys can catch up. We just left with one last thing, so I'll wait. Any questions? Feel free. Even if it's a silly one, it's okay. Go a little bit darker for the eye. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we are going to start here now. And as you can see, it looks so tiny and scary, but it's okay. We'll go as slow as possible. Okay. I do want to give some background or the underpainting color here. Maybe like again, a brown mixed with a bit of red. because you will see that those colors will come together. Usually I would paint this very slowly in my studio if I just painting for myself or to enter into a competition. But we'll try to keep it slow even now so that you guys see how things pop up. Okay. I'll let it dry for a minute, just a minute. And then I'll already start mixing some paint on my palette. Nice dark paint, less water. Remember, I want it really dark. So I need some really saturated paint here. Okay. You can mix some browns, reds, maroons, whatever color you think, but it just has to be darker than the other areas. That's my only goal. Okay, we can start here. As you can see, on the top, it's not very dark. So we can still play, although my brush has already a lot of paint. I am just following shapes here. Some shapes I drew. Try to keep them different. As I come down, you can see they are dark, really almost like black. But I wouldn't use black. It looks very dull and boring. In watercolors, most artists try to avoid black. Some artists do use. It's a personal preference of the artist. But black, just out of the paint tube, looks very, very dull, opaque, ruins the transparency quality of the watercolor medium. But again, it's your choice. You can use it. I'm not using any black. I'm just keeping it really dark. I'm sometimes mixing some blue into this mixture of brown and red that just intensifies the whole uh, color here. And again, I'm not trying to copy every single cell here. It's going to be impossible to finish in this class. The point is just to make it look different in terms of values and shapes. Some big, some small. Again, you can go back and add some darks when you feel like it needs some more dark. Always feel free to add that. And as an artist, sometimes it's important to take your own decisions here. You are not comfortable, go ahead, add some color, whatever you think is good. You don't have to use brown, you can use black, you can use anything that makes you happy. It's your painting. So without adding any white, I kind of created a white layer. Do you see that? It's so interesting. The white of the paper is white paint. Yes, it takes time. There are many methods to save some time, like using masking fluid and stuff. But I don't use it in the class because not everybody would have masking fluid. And then it it is time consuming because you need to let it dry, peel it off, then start again. It's not something you can do in an hour class. Just for some base.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Just for the base layers, I may add a little more dark blues here. Do you see now how they are all blending and taking its course, going from darker to lighter? That's what we want. Okay. I think we are done with most of the painting here. Okay, I'll let you guys finish it. And then I'll show you how to do the background. And then there's one more small step. I'll let this dry and I'll show you. Okay. So I'll talk about the background in a bit so you guys can finish this part. We're almost at the end, guys. Thank you for being patient. I know watercolors takes a lot of patience. See, I can always add some red here. Just glows the painting. Okay, so how would you paint the background? You can leave it as it is if you feel like, or you can paint some color with one single color or two colors or multiple colors. It's your choice. Okay. I like always very nice, colorful backgrounds. It's just fun. So I'll just show you one simple way how to make a good background. And again, you can change the colors the way you like. You don't have to follow what I like. You can make it black background, totally fine. But I usually like to wet the whole area outside the subject and then just drop in colors. It's just fun. So look at my brush I have. It's a very thick brush so that I can cover a lot with water. just clean water. But you have to be careful because as I come closer to the subject, I need to keep it away from water. Right now, my water is muddy, which is okay. Um, it's a background. I'm not worried. But I am going to make sure that I wet the background completely well. And sometimes you may have to go back and add some water, because what happens is the minute you put water, depending on how hot your room is or how much water you're using in your brush, it'll start to dry very quickly, really quickly. And by the time you finish this whole area of wetting this whole surface, you'll realize the other top layers have dried. So this is a bit of work that needs a bit of experience, but you can do it. So I go back and forth, add some water. And just remember, before you try this technique, you need to have all your paints ready in your palette, all ready to go, because you cannot just suddenly decide, oh, now let me squeeze the tube and then add some on the paper. No, this will start drying and you can still paint, but it'll give you streaks. It won't give you a very smooth feeling. So watercolors require a bit of planning. I'm going to just take some blues and see, I'm just going to add some colors here. It's just a very free way of making a background. There is no rule here. I just like it sometimes like this, with some freedom. Again, you can decide how you want to make it look. I usually pick the colors that I have already used in my painting so that they look one. Okay. And because I had so much water on my paper, do you see the minute I touch the brush, there's a lot of water that starts to flow. And the paint starts to mingle with each other, just trying to talk to each other. Then you can just move it, play with it as much as you like, as little as you want. Just have fun. You can dab it with some paper towel or something and give it some texture here. But this way, you got a very nice simple background. I'll just clean up some areas while it's already wet because I don't want it to dry. And then, it'll be like scrubbing. Just taking a clean brush, softly moving so that they all just mingle with each other. That way you get a very nice smooth background. Okay, this is one way. And I wanted to show what I wanted to do here. I did see a bit of red here or nice maroon. So I just wanted, when it's all completely dry, I thought I would just paint some, layer on it. It'll just glow. But it has to be dry. So that way, I think the painting is almost done. Okay. That's it, guys. I think you guys were very patient, didn't have much questions. I hope you guys were able to paint this. And if you have any questions, please, please, please email me. I'll be happy to answer. Let me know what subjects you would like me to paint, and we can have that at the library program if it's possible within that time frame. Always love to see your paintings when you're done. I get so many emails and so many suggestions. So definitely keep the conversation going. Thank you again for joining, everyone. Back to you,
Hi,
Lauren.
Megha. I'm just looking up to see when the next class is. I think it's on
21st, I think.
real quick. I think so, but I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah.
Yes, the 21st at 4:00.
Right.
Back, and we will paint at that time the most adorable penguin.
Yes, penguins. It's all winter time.
Please join us then. Your turtles all came out good. Megha, do you want me to type your email in the chat box in case someone wants to show you what
Yes,
they did?
please. Yes, please. Yes.
And it is Megha Watercolor
Yes.
at
gmail.com.